my pleasure to once again introduce Liz Liddell, the Director of Campus Organizing at the Secular Student Alliance. I think you guys all know her very, very well, so I won't eat into her time. I am very excited by the atheist movement's recent involvement in interfaith work, which seems to be being led almost completely at the student level, which I'm really excited about. So anyway, please join me in welcoming Liz Liddell.
You want us to applaud for you guys too? Yay, you came back in. All right, look at me, I'm messing stuff up. All right. So I'm here to talk about something that actually has come up a number of times already this weekend, which is this situation of atheists in interfaith, which is fairly new, and something that I think is really exciting. So here's the first question: is what is interfaith? No, really, what's this all about? Rising trend, as I said, very largely on college campuses. This seems to be predominantly a student-based thing. Which is not to say that it's not happening off campus, but if you Google interfaith, the first big chunk of things that come up are all student-based. The idea is that it's bringing people together of different worldviews with the intent of setting aside our differences to work together to accomplish shared goals. The interesting thing I found out about it is that in many ways the interfaith movement is true secular pluralism. It's drawing people from all across the board to come together and work together for a common goal, a shared action. I'm going to back up a little bit, and I meant to lead this off with a little bit of why I'm talking about this. In October this year, just last month, believe it or not, the Interfaith Youth Core held this two consecutive sessions of the Interfaith Leadership Institute in Washington, D.C., between the White House and Georgetown University. And they had 100 students and 50 staff members from college campuses at each of these events. So they had about, that would make 200 students and 100 staffers. Look at me doing math. All coming together to get involved in the Interfaith Youth Core's Better Together campaign and learn about interfaith and how they can make it a reality on their campus. I was the only non-theistic representative on the staff, and we had about 4 SSA student members there representing non-theistic students. And when you first find out that you're the atheist going to the interfaith thing, you kind of go, oh geez, what is this going to be like? And the reason I came back and decided that this presentation needed to be made was because that sensation of, oh, is this going to be okay, is absolutely a false impression. The interfaith movement is absolutely welcoming to atheists and non-theistic students. Are atheists welcome in interfaith? So in the Interfaith Youth Core's What If Toolkit, which we were all handed at this event, I had this section, and I've underlined the example that kept coming up over and over and over again. Religious and non-religious, people of all faith and no faith, people of all religions and no religions. There's a recognition that the language isn't perfect. But they're not letting it stop them, and they're making ways to make sure that they can be as inclusive as they can be of all people, explicitly reaching out to the non-theistic community and bringing us into it. So that's from their toolkit. And so yes, atheists are absolutely welcome in here. All right, so if we have to have all these linguistic gymnastics, why are we using the term interfaith? Okay, might be a little problematic. But how many people recognize some of these words and symbols? Why don't we just pick one, guys? And so this is a familiar problem to us, the labels problem. And just as it's a common problem to us as non-theists, it's a problem the interfaith movement. They kind of agree that interfaith isn't the right word for it, but short of coming up with the atheist, agnostic, freethinker, humanist, skeptic, bright naturalist, etc., that we sometimes get saddled with, they've decided that they're just going to keep using the word interfaith and just make sure that in the rest of their language they are very inclusive. I think if I were going to label this movement from the beginning, I probably would have used something like interworldview. But again, you know, that gets clunky and it's not as marketable. And so, hey, look, they've got their own problems and we can relate. Look, I screwed it up. I broke it. There we go. Interfaith takes a lot of different forms on a lot of different campuses, but it's actually present on quite a few campuses. The obvious ones are if you have something like an interfaith center, an interfaith program, an interfaith council, interfaith weeks, stuff like that. A lot of campuses have these. Another one might be a center for religious life or department of student spirituality. These end up, they kind of borrow from the religious language, and so you have to be willing to either think of how humanism is a religion in the 7th dictionary definition, or be willing to look past the religious language and look at what they're actually trying to do. A lot of times you'll get multicultural or intercultural programs, and then sometimes you get some funny ones. At Stanford University, they have a program called the Stanford Associated Religions, and they sort their organizations by alphabetizing their titles. So the first Stanford Associated Religions is the Atheists, Humanists, and Agnostics at Stanford. So clearly this is one of those cases where they had to, they actually took some steps to work with the SAR and create documentation that specified that despite the fact that they're using the word religion, they don't identify as supernatural, and everything there has been going swimmingly. And then you get schools that really do try to become linguistically as inclusive as possible, and you end up with funny department names like this. So if if there's your spirituality and meaning-making programs. So if you see something with a bizarre name like this on your campus, this may be what they're trying to say. Obviously, again, the language isn't perfect. And then there's Interfaith Youth Core programs. IFYC is a national nonprofit organization that works to foster student interfaith programs. I want to talk a little bit about what interfaith is and what it is not. We'll start with the is. It is pluralism in the truest sense of the word. It's bringing people together from all different backgrounds. It is setting aside our differences. I like to think of this as the can you play well with others clause. If you are not able to set aside the fact that I don't believe in God and you do, maybe interfaith isn't the place for you. And I'm not going to be so naive as to say it's for everyone. But I think it is open to everyone who is able to play well with others. It is an effort to promote understanding between people of different backgrounds, much like Nate was saying in his service project talk. It's an opportunity to learn more and to promote understanding. It's an effort to bring people together, and it's an opportunity for social action or community service. A pretty darn good one. Interfaith is not proselytizing in either direction. Just as you don't want to go and have all the Christians come tell you that you need to believe in Jesus and accept him into your heart and become holy and whatnot, you can't go there and tell everybody else that their religions are wrong. There are forums for that, and as far as I've found, Interfaith is not that forum. That said, it's not a place that you can't ask questions. But again, remember the play well with others clause. Totally okay to ask, like, hey, in the Muslim prayer ceremony that you let me share, why are the genders segregated? What's that all about? And get answers. It's not okay to say, you segregate your genders. Obviously, your religion is anti-feminist and from the Dark Ages and should be abolished. It's not pretending that our differences don't exist. We are different. This is the time to learn about it and learn how to work around them. Despite what it sounds like from some of the language, especially the way universities are adopting interfaith, it's not actually an effort to privilege religion over non-religion. It really is an effort to just bring people together. Likewise, it's not an effort to make everyone the same. It's not like we're going to put you all in the same place and give you matching t-shirts and then pretend that we're all clones of one another. And then I think this last one is particularly important. It is a great opportunity for social action or service. It is not the only opportunity. And sometimes it's just not going to work out. And so I don't want people to go away feeling like, oh, I don't think my group would be very compatible with interfaith, but we want to engage in service projects, so I guess we'll throw the service projects out because that's not going to work. Don't think that. You can definitely still do service projects on your own or in small cooperative groups or with other groups that are not faith-based. Oh, look, my talk is interactive. Does anybody have any other things they've noticed that interfaith is or is not? I'm definitely interested to hear what you have to say. There's actually room in the handouts in your programs that you can write down things. Novel concept. All right, we'll move on. We've got some pros and cons of atheists being an interfaith. I'm an optimist. Let's go through the positive ones first. Hey, it's an opportunity for really big scale service projects. One of the projects they talked about at this institute was a group at the University of Illinois. I know they've been coming up a lot this weekend. That had something like a 48-hour continuous service project where they accepted donations of food and packaged them up to send to Haitians after the earthquake. They packaged something like 2 million meals for people in Haiti in this one weekend service project. It's phenomenal. And the only reason they were able to do it was because they were able to reach across lines and draw on people from different backgrounds to do it. So you really do have some opportunity for awesome stuff. Makes non-theists more visible. It makes them more visible to people who are going to go out and tell others about it. We said this sometimes is the only time people get the chance to spend time with someone they know is a non-theist. And so that can be a really novel, changing experience for them. And demonstrates that we can be good without God. Can't have enough of that. Opportunities for representation on campus. This ended up being worded weirdly. Basically, if your campus has an interfaith council or something like that, you want to be on it. Because that's an organization that's going to be holding events, probably has access to funding or space or things like that, and has some say with university administrators or the community around campus or on campus. That you want to be represented on, that if you get involved, you'll be bringing that non-theistic perspective to that table. And that's really important. It's a great opportunity. Access to funding or facilities. Students for Free Thought has a representative on the Ohio State Interfaith Council, and as a result, they get to use the interfaith space. It's a room actually about this size. It's free. It's reserved for those interfaith groups. And it's swanky. It's got like cool stained glass. Also can build support for help when you do have those conflicting events, like Everybody Draw Muhammad Day. So you've got that relationship that you can fall back on to help you get through those. Anybody who's been involved in interfaith have other things they've brought out of it, or other things you think could be gained? That's the got others part.
You make friends.
You make friends, yeah. Have fun. That's a great question. Hang on to that thought, and let's see if we can. Not actually sure if I answered or not, but rather than opening up a big can of worms in the middle, let's hang on to the can till the end. Dale.
I think it can also help to get our own members, to get members out of their own stereotyping of religious people. A lot of times you have people who have limited exposure to other worldviews. This can help break through that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. John?
Just following up on that, like I would kind of a one-trick pony. I like the idea of making the world more rational, and hanging out with religious people in a setting like this is probably the best opportunity that we have outside of, I think debates are interesting ways to go about trying to influence people's perspective, but just spending time with them and letting them understand experientially that atheism does not lead to rampant evil.
Right.
Is really useful for trying to stem the tide or something.
Yeah. So, of course, the world isn't all sparkly and flowers. We do have some downsides. It can be really hard sometimes to set aside that need to question and challenge religion. And I mean this in the like, poking you, do you really believe in God? You shouldn't believe in God way. Not like the, why does your religion do something this way? For particular members of a group, or even for groups with, secular groups with a strong, aggressive atheist ideology, this can be really hard. People looking from the outside at this sort of event might think that, how many of us have heard that atheism is just another religion? There's an opportunity for misunderstanding there. We can be good without God on our own. We don't need religious people to hold our hands and show us how to do it. And some interfaith programs, IF is a very common abbreviation for interfaith. Some interfaith programs are not as welcoming to non-theists as others. So you may try to participate in your campuses, and they may say, this is for real religions only, go away. Which actually could be a really interesting opportunity for a letter to the editor and some pushback from your group. And I would want to hear about it if that does happen. But the reality of it is that some are more welcoming than others. This last one is actually the newest one I found that may be concerning. Some interfaith groups require that you sign or agree to this kind of like a mutual respect agreement. Sometimes they're really benign and they say, like, don't proselytize one another. And that's fine. But sometimes they say, your group can't partake in any kind of activity that might offend people of other religions. Well, how many people were watching things like Boob Quaker, Everybody Draw Muhammad Day? How many of us want to give that up? Right. So, if things like this come up, then you might need to look at them. And again, it may be a chance for action on your campus to say, look, this is limiting free speech. This is not cool. Everybody got others? Randall.
Even if, in an interfaith setting, you're still, if you're representing the atheists, you're still kind of the odd man or woman out, because everyone else can agree on that there is a God and an afterlife, even though they disagree on all the particulars, but you have kind of that one naturalistic thing going on.
That's not actually as true as that's what I was worried about going into this. I was like, oh God, I'm going to be the only person there who doesn't believe in God. And there were a lot of people who were, Christian in the loosest deist sense. And we had my group had a non-theistic Buddhist in our group. So, while that can be a possibility, don't assume that that's going to be the case.
But you answered that.
All right.
Even better than I was ready with.
Dale?
What you?
Sorry to over-participate, but this is I've been dealing with this a whole lot just recently. The first one, I think, one way to help think about that is we have a false conception that in our lives we are not already doing this. The fact is we are already doing this. My wife's family, for example, the entire family is Southern Baptist, praise Jesus, the whole thing. And when we're together, I am not constantly challenging their beliefs.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I don't do that sometimes in certain situations. The cousin and I go off to the side and talk about, whatever. But we can and we do already coexist and not constantly challenge. We can find a way to have dinner together, to go to an event together, do something like that. So this is just another example of what we already do.
Yep. Don?
It's a relatively minor concern, but for me, the idea that my efforts to serve society would be misunderstood if someone saw that I was involved in a service project and was told that it was an interfaith service project, I would accidentally sort of be promoting religion.
Yeah.
And not just like that they would think that atheism is a religion, but that I'm actively making someone think, oh, religion, that's a great thing, because these
right.
people are doing this stuff. That makes me really itchy, but just get some hydrocortisone, it's all good.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very interesting concern and something you would want to weigh as a group if this is something you decided you want to get involved in. A couple things you want to be prepared for if your group does decide to get involved in interfaith. Language. Interfaith, people of all religions, this nice spirituality term. The language isn't perfect. People who are running these programs are still working on it. They're going to, intentionally or not, they're going to say things like this. And you need to decide whether you want to make a point to try and change the language to be more inclusive or whether you just want to roll with it. Both are totally appropriate options, but you need to be prepared for it. Got to be ready for some of those misunderstandings and stereotypes. Yay, welcome to being an atheist. And awkward moments. These do happen, and the best thing to do is just to be prepared to talk through them. Because you'll say something that you don't think about as being offensive or taken the wrong way, and you do, and then you're like, oh, I've got my foot in my mouth.
I just have an awkward moment story that I have to tell. So IFOC has done a couple of these White House things, and I was I think it was the first one they were doing. And we were checking in through security, and it's a process. And the first meeting was just a couple of weeks after the Draw Muhammad thing had happened. And who should I be next in line to and start, I don't know, we didn't have name tags until we got past security. So it was like, hey, I'm August Brunzo, and I'm the executive director of the Secular Student Alliance. This was just a couple weeks after the Draw Muhammad thing, right? So, and who should it be but the head chaplain at Northwestern? And which the Draw Muhammad thing was intensely received at Northwestern, and he was not impressed. We tried to talk about it, but I was not making any traction. We just sort of decided to sit there silently and awkwardly after a while.
Yeah, that was actually me and my roommate.
I've since what?
That was me and my roommate.
Oh really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But we have since run into each other again at some subsequent meetings, and the interactions have gotten a little more. They've gotten warmer, so it does get better.
So and then this is probably where this fits in. How do you get people involved in it? But I promise we will come back to that because the last thing I want to actually talk about, I'm gonna go evangelize for IFYC for a moment. IFYC is launching this year a Better Together campaign, and these are the two logos that you'll probably see for it: the Better Together, and then this big what if question. It's a year-long program. You can learn about it at ifyc.org/whatif. To launch large-scale social action and service projects on college campuses, interfaith service projects. They like to explain it forward. I like to explain it backwards. Basically, the end goal is to have a giant service project on every campus in April, and then they've got some plans for events that build up to that. Look, it kicks off in January, culminates in a large-scale service project in April. It's on over 130 campuses right now, and it is growing, and non-theists are definitely welcome in this program. So if you do see something like this on your campus, as I was going through the Institute, I kept meeting representatives from campuses where I was like, oh, you should get in touch with this SSA affiliate. Hey, we have an SSA affiliate here. Have you reached out to them? There's actually one going on here at USC. I'm pretty sure there were kids from Furman. So it's happening all over the place. So if you see this, this might be a safe zone to get your feet wet and dabble in the interfaith program a little bit. So questions. I do want to tackle this one. How do you get people to show up? The IFYC program is taking an approach sort of, how many people have Campus Crusade on their Christ who do these campaigns where they write like, can you taste it all over campus, and then have you come to this event where it's really just like Jeezy crazy stuff? Because that was my undergrad experience.
We had, do you agree with Keener?
Yeah. So IFYC has borrowed from this, and they've gotten this like what if thing, and they're trying to make the same kind of campaign of like, we're not going to tell you what this is, we're going to just hope you show up. I don't 100% agree with it because we as non-theists, and I'm sure other minority religious groups, have been burned by that technique, by Campus Crusade, so many times that I don't know how many of us would actually show up to it. But that said, I think, the same way we work with getting students to show up to SSA events, advertise, use all the tools you've got, and then on top of it, make sure the language you're using is inclusive. It does not hurt to have a flyer that says atheists, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Jews, Sikhs, anything else, you're welcome at this event, because I know that until I went to this event, I wouldn't have thought atheists were welcome. We're really like welcome at Interfaith. I might have barged in anyway. In fact, that's what I did. But I wouldn't have really felt that we were wanted there. And when I was an undergrad, I didn't really feel like I was wanted at the multicultural events. I really felt like those were anything but American culture events. And so it does not at all hurt to explicitly call out people and say, look, you're welcome here, you're welcome here, you're welcome here. Because then there's no question about it, and people know that it'll be a comfortable space, or at least we hope so. Michael?
I'm just trying to think of if something like that were happening at USC. And the first thing that comes to my mind is like all of us trying to sit in a room, and you have a block of all the Christian organizations that are on campus, and then you have the one person from the Jewish organization, the one Muslim, and a couple people from Pastafarians, one or two of us. And like, how do you necessarily deal with, I guess, an obvious majority of student organizations that want to participate, but in doing so, you kind of, lose the power of diversity?
Sure. I will speak to that, borrowing from Sharon Moss, who's the interfaith representative at Ohio State. We share an office. We talk about this a lot. She has found that when she shows up so before we started going to these interfaith events, it was basically like 11 Christian pastors, and then there was a Muslim guy who would show up sometimes. And so Sharon started attending these things, and she immediately noticed a language change. Just the sheer presence of having an atheist at the table sort of breaks up that block mentality. It's not the 11 pastors saying, well, we all believe in God, so whatever you have to say doesn't matter. It's they suddenly say, oh, we don't all actually believe in God. How do we deal with this? And so I think that may have the potential to be a problem, but I think as long as the event and the programming is true to the spirit of actually being pluralistic and diverse, that mentality will override the statistics that there are more Christians than anything else.
I was just thinking about, because Stephen was just telling me that when he went to it last year at our school, it was like packed and it was a really interesting conversation, everything, and then this time it was more like everybody response. It seems like the mentality, or what happened was people were going, I did my thing, I did that, I was a good person, I went and listened to all these people, different ideas, so I'm kind of done now. So how do you keep interest in that growing?
I would hesitate to jump to that conclusion. I would look at things like, hey, was there a football game that night? Or, what else is going on? Because, little things like that can make a huge difference in attendance. That said, the same way you keep your group going, having events, keeping the mentality active, rather than being like a checkbox event. Did I do my interfaith? Yes. Have it be that, an ongoing sort of participation or cooperation. Dale.
I wanted to mention that Foundation Beyond Belief is starting an initiative in January as well, an interfaith outreach initiative, essentially, called Challenge the Gap. And we're going to be sponsoring either, as one of our choices for featured charities, some of these interfaith organizations over the course of the year, and then some carefully screened religious charities as well. And IFYC is likely to be our first beneficiary. So I'm also just getting a really clear sense this weekend that SSA and these groups, you're the ones who are doing this. You're the ones who are actually at the cutting edge of reaching out in this interfaith situation. So if anybody is interested in contacting us and being part of that and helping us to plan it or anything like that, please get in touch with me and we'll try to help.
Awesome.
One other thing to sort of address Michael's point about, the zillion Christians versus you. Something that I've found, which has been a little bit disappointing at some interfaith events, is that, there are plenty of different Christians there, but it definitely skews to the left. I remember one meeting that I was at, there were Muslims and Jews and maybe a Buddhist or two and me as an atheist. But a conversation broke up about, what do we do about things like Prop 8? And there was nobody in the room who was going to speak against equal rights for gays and lesbians. And that sort of, I think, reveals a way in which interfaith still needs to grow, which is to get in touch with, hopefully, even the more cooperative folks on kind of the more, on the more conservative edge of Christianity and Judaism and Islam. To kind of connect that back, like there may actually not be as many Christian groups as you think, because some of the more conservative ones may have screened themselves out probably for the worst, but nonetheless, the block may not be as bad as you anticipate.
But then that's also an opportunity for us to show that this is the common ground.
Right.
And it's the fundamentalists who are out. And now we've finally drawn the line in the right place. Instead of constantly drawing it, cutting off.
Between theists and non-theists.
Yeah, right.
Here. I'm actually, that's so awesome. I'm going to wrap that up here. So this is our last talk of the event. I would love to remind everybody, if you have a evaluation form, to please hand it to an SSA staffer before you leave. And I would love to have a round of applause for our USC volunteers, the SSA staff putting this together, and all of our speakers. This has been great. Thank you so much.